Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel. My name is Ross Wongthorn and I will be chairing today's meeting. Let me start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today and paying respect to the elders past, present and emerging. May I also welcome my fellow panel members, Kate Bartlett, Michael Levy and Phil Young, and ask them to briefly introduce themselves. So if we could start, Kate, if you could very briefly introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm Kate Bartlett. I'm a consultant town planner. I've worked both in local government, state government and private consulting, and I'm one of the expert members on the LPP for the Northern Beaches.
Thank you. And Michael?
Yes, Michael Levy, qualified town planner, over 35 years experience, again in the local, state and private sectors. I operate a planning consultancy based on the Central Coast and have done so for the last 10 years. I'm also an experienced panel chair and expert panel member.
Michael, thank you very much. And Phil Young?
Yeah, Phil Young, I'm the community representative. I've been involved in local government from a community perspective for over 20 years in the Clontarf area, running the precinct that was here and now our forum. And I also attend regular council meetings with councillors on various issues to do with planning.
Phil, thank you. My name is Ross Wongthorn. I'm an architect planner. I was previously elected to the Pittwater Council, having been appointed to establish the council after the separation from Warringah. I served also on Sydney City Council for some 20 years, and at the same time I was the principal architect and a director for the Lend-Lease group of companies for some 29 years. I'd like to also welcome the staff members that make these meetings possible, and also welcome members of the public that are connected into this meeting at this stage. Let me also provide an overview or very brief introduction to the role of the panel and the general process for the planning meetings. These panels were established by the state government some years ago and were established to provide an increased level of accountability and ensure independent oversight leads to better planning outcomes, particularly for certain developments that are controversial or sensitive or involving a potential or real conflict of interest for council. The role of the council of the panels is to firstly provide an independent and open forum for interested persons and groups to hear and make submissions. Secondly, to consider and determine development applications and application modifications. And thirdly, to provide recommendations to council on planning proposals and any other development matters that referred to the panel for consideration. It's important to note that the panel does not, and I repeat, does not set policy, but works within the legal framework and policy set by the council, state government and the courts. Panel members, you'll note there are 4 of us today. 2 of the members are appointed by the Minister as experts. 1 is appointed as a community member and I'm appointed as an alternate chair. The panels are bound by a code of conduct. Panel members must sign a declaration disclosing whether they have a conflict of interest to any matter on the agenda for the meeting. Meetings are usually of a format which includes site inspections, public panel meeting, which is what we are doing at this stage, a closed panel session for the panel to deliberate, and a public announcement of the determinations of the panel, which normally applies within 48 hours of the meeting. The public panel meeting provides an opportunity for oral submissions. It's not a place for debate or discussion between the applicant and objectors. The panel may ask questions or seek clarifications after the presentation has been completed. The public meetings are video and audio recorded. The recordings are live streamed and will be published by the council's website within 48 hours. Once all the speakers in relation to the matters of the agenda have finished, I'll close the meeting. The panel will move to a closed session to deliberate and determine all the matters on the agenda. The presenters are requested to make concise presentations for 3 minutes, and there'll be a notification or a warning after 3 minutes. It's not necessary to read submissions because we've perhaps received the submissions and the panel have already observed and read them. And it would be good if the presenters focus on their main concerns to ensure a clear and concise message is delivered to the panel. So I'll formally commence the Northern Beaches planning meeting today for the 20th of November. Item 1, apologies and declarations of interest. I have no apologies, but I think, Kate, you have a declaration of interest.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a reasonably perceived conflict of interest for item 5.3, which is for Gladys Avenue and Frenchs Forest. I have a established working relationship with Peter Smith of Smith & Zahn, so I will be absenting myself from consideration of that matter.
And so that matter is 5.3 in the closed panel meeting.
That's correct.
The non-public meeting, so you will declare an interest and absent yourself from the discussion on that item.
That's correct.
Thank you. Item 2, I have no other declarations of interest. I think we've all signed the forms and submitted them. Item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. Minutes of the meeting of the 7th of November. The panel note that the minutes of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel held on the 7th of November were adopted by the chairperson and have been posted on Council's website. Item number 3, and there are no category 3 applications on today's meeting. Item 4.1. 4.1 is a DA number 2024/0675, which is for an application for 82 mode Vale, which the report has been circulated. We've received 3 late submissions. The late submissions are from Mr. and Mrs. McDonald, Mr. Kevin Lee, and Miss Amber Jones. There's a request to present, and I've been notified there are 2 objectors, Mr. Peter McDonald and Mr. Craig Sheed. And so I will come to allow them to do a presentation. And also from the applicant, Ms. Sammy Lynn, Robert, and Chris Taylor. So to commence this, I will ask either Mr. Peter or Mrs. Jane McDonald if they'd like to address the panel for 3 minutes, and we'll let you know when your 3 minutes is up.
All right, thanks very much for the opportunity. I sent through a fairly simple deck. I hope everyone's read that. My prime concern, hello, can you hear me? Ross,
yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. My prime concern in terms of these pickleballs is personal safety. I believe, and I've had confirmed, that the courts themselves, yes, we agree on the size of the court, that wasn't the point, but the playing area is beyond the courts. People don't, they serve outside the court, they head into the court from the sides and so forth. So you need sufficient room. So eventually the final item that I got was from the Australian Pickleball Association, who've actually been in operation since 2020. And they came back to confirm that the best chance you'd have is getting 4, not 6 courts. They are willing to talk to someone at the council or at the club to explain to them. They've set out the standards, which are exactly what I had got from elsewhere. They've put that down. So this is about personal safety. Do we have any questions, please?
So are there any panel members that have questions for Mr. McDonald?
No questions from me, but I think there will be a question to the pickleball representative.
Yes, same for me.
Just to
Thank you.
clarify, just to clarify, Mr. McDonald, I think we all have read the submissions that you made and the summary, and we have a copy of the statement from the Pickleball Australia Association, which confirms some of the things that you have just outlined to us. So are there any other questions?
I think it's just important to note that in the assessment report that you received, it's on page 20. This was misunderstood for some reason as being a debate about court size. It was never the debate. And my replay of those submissions that you have there show that. Yeah, this is the governing body for Australia, and I don't think they get it wrong. You can't call a pickleball court a pickleball court unless you follow the standards. It's that simple. I think 16,000 people injured in the US playing pickleball in 2023. So it can be dangerous. And certainly if you're playing on a rooftop versus in tennis courts, different story. Okay.
Thank you, Peter, very much, and thank you for the copies that you forward through to us. That information has been very informative. The next person who is listed to present is Chris Sheed. If I could ask if that's possible.
Hi, I'm Chris Stead. Thank you for your time. Look,
I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I just want to talk to the sound issue. I don't think it's been taken into account at all. I'm about 15 to 20 minutes walk away from the RSL towards the north near the golf course. As it currently stands, many nights opening the front door or the front window straight up, all you can hear is the football courts, yelling, cheering, even the odd swearing, that far away. Anything that happens on the deck is as clear as day. You can hear what they're saying, every song that's played. I had a party at the ice rink last year. It sounded like the neighbour was having a celebration. And I can send you a recording, if you like, of Anzac Day taken to my daughter's bedroom, where you can not only hear the voices of everyone, but whether it was heads or tails. And the current sound show doesn't take into account how sound travels through the valley, especially if the prevailing wind has any south in it. Now, a friend of mine lives in Utingu, which is double the distance of me. He can also clearly hear the RSL. Another mate behind the cemetery can hear it. The RSL is surrounded in 270 degrees by residents and faces a natural amphitheatre. The noise pollution is already extreme, yet the sound recording quoted in the planning was taken lower than the proposed courts and in the industrial zone. The current plan has a wall not even as tall as a player's racket and only on one edge. If approved, in order to trap the sound of humans, the sound of the sport itself, it needs to be fully enclosed and soundproofed. Otherwise, just like we had with the deck, it will be endless police reports and councillor involvements trying to get it shut down. We just went through this with the deck. In terms of the notification, I got no notification as DA. I'm in a sound impacted area. I'm a club member. I'm also signed up to the council DA newsletter mail out. The only reason I know about this is because I stumbled on a small yellow note in the corner of the parking lot. The people I've spoken to the area who are absolutely impacted by the sound of these courts don't know about it. Don't even know this has been proposed. So like the sound recording, it's just, it doesn't feel like it's adequate. And I was also concerned to see such a large volume of out of area residents do very brief affirmative statements all on the same day, which suggested to me that there'd been some other force involved in making sure that, you know, there was a big positive outreach on this plan, even though the vast majority of people who are directly affected don't even know it's happening. So what I'd like to see is a way better plan for trapping the sound so that all of us don't get further impacted by the RSL, which is already providing quite extreme noise pollution. Thank you.
Chris, thank you very much. Panel members, are there any questions of Chris?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman. Chris, just looking at the location, so you're generally to the north of the pickleball courts, I guess, where the court's on an angle, so you've got the elevation to Motorvale Road, but then the side elevation as well. Is that right? Generally north? Yeah.
So the pickleball courts kind of face almost northwest, and I would be northwest, I guess you could say, northwest. But yeah, the sound, anything that happens on there, just travel like the football courts, which you are now currently seeing quite a bit lower and walled in. You can hear clear as day as soon as you open the window to my house. most nights that there's any action happening over there. You can hear the markets, you can hear anything that happens on the deck clear as day. The sound just goes straight out across that amphitheatre, so it really needs to be enclosed in order to trap the sounds. And like I said, most of the residents in the area don't even notice it's been proposed.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
Okay. Do you have any questions or clarifications?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand just very briefly, with the football courts, you're talking about the existing futsal courts. Is that correct?
Yes, just to give an identifier of what sound is already travelling from some courts that are not even as exposed as these ones will be to the amphitheatre.
And just in terms of those sorts of numbers, I'm just trying to get an understanding. So normally, how many players would be on the court at a single point in time for the football across the three of them?
If I may,
don't
it's
know,
5
but-
aside.
5 aside. Thank you.
No further questions? Chris, thank you very much. I'm not sure, but I believe that Amber Jones is online and she did not request to present, but I have a copy, Amber, of your late submission. Did you wish to briefly address the panel?
Yes, hi. I would like to address the panel in regards to backing up those. So I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm a bit muffled at the moment.
Just before you start, do you mind just to remind you that you would have 3 minutes, and we have read the submission that you gave to us.
I understand that. It's just to reiterate my concerns about the noise. Like communication was very poor from the council, not from the council, sorry, from the RSL. We heard very, very little, and we can hear absolutely every single conversation and movement from the futsal courts, from the outdoor area, and we have to close our windows and doors at night and during the day when there are events on. So we get no airflow. We can't enjoy our backyard, our living space outside. And it's a real detriment to our comfort of living in our own home. And this is just me affected, but I know there's going to be hundreds of residents further where Chris is that will be affected as well.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Amber? No? Okay, Amber, thank you very much. And again, thank you for your submission. You'd put a lot of effort into sending us something, which we did get, and it was received in time for us to at least read.
Great, thank you.
The other people wishing to address the panel are from the applicant. I have 3 names, and I would suggest that perhaps we listen to the 3 applicants and then direct questions afterwards, rather than take it piece by piece. So I'm not sure who would like to address the panel first, whether it's Tammy or Robert or Chris.
Robert Clark, I'm happy to go first.
Thanks, Robert. If you would, you're aware of the 3-minute time frame.
Yes, I do. Just very quickly, we assisted the club in putting together the application and sought the consultants in terms of traffic and acoustics for this work. And just like to address this one to Dr. McDonald, but the size of the pickleball courts shown comply with the National Pickleball League of Australia sizes, which is where they've taken those sizing from. So that's the National Pickleball League of Australia, which is the 13.41 by the 6.1. In regard, and the club, of course, is conscious that that there would be some concerns from the neighbours, in particular with acoustics or the noise, which is why they got a acoustic consultant to assess the impact of these. He actually went out and measured the pickleball noises from some active pickleball courts. He took quite a few readings across Monabar Road onto the other side to make his assessment of how best to reduce any impact of noise, which is why we have the 2.5 metre high wall on top of the existing wall. And taking into account that now that Mona Vale Road has been opened up and is very busy, a lot of the noise that was generated when he took his readings was from the actual traffic noise. So yeah, the club has been conscious of it, but they have, they believe, done everything that they can to reduce that impact, and also to assist that, they were originally going to operate the facility to 9 p.m, but they've reduced that down now to 8 p.m. So it's much earlier in the evening.
So, Robert, could you please sum up now, if you would?
It's essentially the club's made, as I said, a significant effort. They're going to spend some money, quite a bit of money, on acoustic acoustics for this area, and they have, as I said, gone into it and got the sizes from a national body.
Okay, thank you very much. Tammy or Chris, who of you would, or which of you would prefer to? Huh?
You go.
I'm not sure, Tammy, if we're getting you connected.
Can you
Sorry,
hear
you're
me?
on mute, Chris.
Oh, there you go.
Got it. Right, I've got a microphone now. Thanks everybody for the opportunity to speak today. My name's Chris Taylor. I've been playing pickleball for 5 years, and I'm president of the Northern Beaches Pickleball Club. It is a very fast-growing sport. In 18 months, we've gone from 150 members to 1,300, and we actually anticipate over 20,000 people wanting to play pickleball on the Northern Beaches, if you take into consideration how the game has developed in the United States and in Europe. In our membership, 82% of our members are over 50 years of age. So it caters for a large group of people in our community that don't get much exercise, that don't get much social interaction, and is really healthy for them. So pickleball does provide an opportunity for people of all ages to play sport. So there are development opportunities for young people, but in the Northern Beaches, our main population is the older generation, people like myself, and pickleball really fits well into our lifestyle. It also fits well into our health profile because it does provide us with exercise, does provide us with mental stimulation, a social interaction, but at the same time, it is not over excessive. We play, generally our club plays for 2 hours. We all take a break in between, and people are really enjoying it. And if they weren't, it wouldn't be such a growing sport. However, we really do have an absolute shortage of venues on the Northern Beaches. And so we see this as a great opportunity for our members and a whole range of members, a whole range of people that aren't playing pickleball, to get involved in the sport. In terms of membership, 20% of our members live on the northern side of Narrabeen Bridge. Our club, the large percentage of our members do live in the DY area, yes, not disagreeing with that, but that is because the club has historically played in this area. We have started at a new venue at Warriewood, an indoor venue, and that is going quite well. But the opportunity to play on an outdoor court, such as the one proposed at Pittwater RSL, would be really, really useful in the short term and in the long term for our sport, and for all of those people to get their healthy exercise. I don't think that I live at Kirkhill, and I live right near the netball courts and the football courts, so I do understand.
Russ, 3-minute warning.
I do understand the
Thank you.
problems of the noise, but the biggest noise in pickleball comes from the laughter and joy of people that are engaged in the game. We play with a plastic ball, and at most you hear a donk donk, and of course people laughing. There are going to be plenty of fences. People aren't going to be climbing over the walls and falling and so on. I think it's a great proposal. It really fits well into our community, and it certainly will help our club and its members to enjoy themselves. Thanks very much.
Chris, thank you very much. And I'm not sure, Tammy, if you are online.
Oh,
I think
hi.
I think I saw you
Can you-
earlier.
I am here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we
Okay.
can't see you. Yeah,
Well,
there you are.
Hi. Firstly, I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to address the panel today and for the opportunity to speak. I'm just here to basically talk about the why on behalf of Pittwater RSL. We very proudly support grassroots sports across the Northern Beaches, across all of the codes that you can get, and we do provide a community space where players, families, and supporters can come together for their club events. With pickleball and the exponential growth that we're seeing in Australia, which is mirroring that of countries overseas, we see it as the next step in our commitment to fostering community connection through sport, but in particular, given its accessibility to people of all ages, all fitness levels and abilities. So it's a very inclusive sport, and that really aligns with our why when it comes to supporting local grassroots sports. These courts would further support Pittwater's RSL, our role as a community anchor, providing a very versatile facility for recreational use, and in particular that intergenerational connection, which I think post-COVID we've lacked, and also that social cohesion. So for us, it's really about social, mental, physical, I guess, health, the health in our community and the ability to bring people together, and not to mention that there just isn't enough pickleball courts on the Northern Beaches to meet demand. And I think, however many courts we end up building is only going to be, is only going to be a small chunk of allowing more availability. I think there needs to be more public infrastructure from a broad perspective. And that's me. So thank you.
Tammy, thank you. I'll now hand over to the panel. Are there any questions panel members have of any of the three speakers we've heard?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and it's probably for Chris, but I share some of the questions and concerns raised by Dr. McDonald, which is not about pickleball, its benefits or the court size, but just around this particular layout and safety, and looking in particular at the outermost courts. You've got a distance of 1.5 metres to solid concrete walls on one side, and on the other side you've got two courts backing onto you, which I guess are potentially in use as well. And it's just those concerns about the layout and whether or not this is an optimum layout in terms of the safety of players. I've no issues with pickleball and what's being provided here. It's just around this layout and the safety of it.
Sure. We play in a number of venues 8 venues now on the Northern Beaches, and a number of them have got a distance of 1.5 metres from walls, and generally speaking, pickleball is not the kind of game where you run off the court and chase a ball off to the side. The depth that we need is generally at the back for serving. So unlike badminton, you stand outside the court, you hit the ball, and the game is played up at the net. It's not like tennis where you're running from one side to the other and so on. It is a game that is played up at the net, and it's actually a soft game, despite a lot of people coming in from tennis and hit the ball hard. So we're not particularly concerned about the distance of the walls from the sides. Yes, we do have a rule, and the rule is if a ball comes onto your court from another court, you stop, you pick up the ball, you return it, and you replay the point. So this is a common practice amongst all of our venues. That could be compensated by putting, if there was space, nets between them. But there are very few venues in Australia that are constructed on those maximum standards. So personally, I'm not really. It fits well for our needs, I think. Thank you.
And I had
That's all.
a similar question. I was wondering, what is the standard for the distance between courts, and how does the proposal compare to that?
Well, it's about the same. Let me think. Curl Youth and Community Centre, where we play, it's 1.43 metres between courts. Beacon Hill Community Centre, it's 1.4 metres between courts. So it's about the same sort of distance between courts. And again, I'd like to stress that it's not a game where we chase balls off the court. It's played on the court. The thing that travels off the court is the ball. And as I said, once the ball goes onto another court, if it does, the game is stopped. The ball's returned and the play is resumed, or the point is played again. Okay, thank you.
Right. So there's no, just to clarify, so there are no specified distances between courts in your rules and regulations.
No, but there are recommended distances, and some of them are, they're very much dreams, I guess, in the maximum facility that you'd like 2.5 metres at the back of the court. But some of the courts we play on are 1.5 metres away at the back of the court, and people adjust. People don't go running into brick walls because they don't go running. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Kate, do you have any questions of any of the presenters? I just have one slight query, and I guess, Chris, it's to you. We were forwarded a copy of some correspondence from someone called Marina, and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her surname, from the Pickleball Australia Association, which refers to dimensions.
Sure.
And the dimensions are obviously for the court itself, but then there's a clarification of the play areas, and they obviously get to be significantly greater. Like the court size is definitive, as you had indicated, and it is shown on some of the drawings. But the actual play area, according to the correspondence, is 9.14 metres by 18.28, which is significantly greater than the court size, which is, as dimensioned, the 6.1 metres by 13.41. So I guess it was seeking understanding of how come on letterhead and signed by a representative of your association, we get very different figures.
Okay, can you just do that for me, those figures again for me, please?
The actual court size, which is on our
13.4 by 1 by 6.
6.1 by 13.41
Correct.
is the court size. And then in the correspondence, it talks of the play area and potentially for social play courts, 9 metres 0.14 by 18 metres 2.8. And then if it's for competition and tournament play, which I don't believe this is, or new construction, it's 10.36 metres by 19.51 metres. And I guess it was just seeking someone writing with your letterhead representing the dimensions, which are obviously preferred dimensions, that are significantly different than shown on our drawings.
Yes, that's correct. These are preferred dimensions. They're not absolute dimensions as far as I understand. I didn't get a copy of that, unfortunately. What are we looking at? We're looking at 4.5 metres in depth, more than a standard court. Yep, you certainly need more. You probably need a metre, 1.8 to 2 metres at either end of the court, and you probably you need 1.4, 1.5 metres between the courts or between the walls.
So
Now,
where
if
they,
it-
sorry, if I
Yep.
may, where they say play area, obviously it's like a football field where you've got runoff area. So if you've got a, for example, the standard 6.1 metre width of court, and then you add to it your 1.5 metres either side, which has been allowed for, you then get that 9 metre width being the runoff area.
Although part of it is shared.
It
Correct.
could, yes, it may be shared, but how often would you maybe run into each other? Probably wouldn't be impossible, but probably would be very limited. So I think where they say it's the play area, I think they're referring to including the surrounds as well. Would I be right in saying that, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. But they are, they're not legislated definitions. They're probably preferred definitions in my view. And as I said, we are playing on limited court facilities, and we just make the most of it.
So I guess that, and I have the correspondence I was referring to, because it actually states, at best, this looks like to be a forecourt facility, and happy to provide insight into what it looks like over the phone. So in other words, I guess it was for the panel just to understand how come there is such a big discrepancy, because it also refers to a potential surround area, which is again a further increase of 3 metres.
I'm sorry,
So,
the question?
not just the facts that we have, or the information we have been given, would seem to be somewhat different than is illustrated on the submission that's been made. In order
That's
to
an
achieve,
interesting. I haven't seen any of those dimensions. We had a pickleball person who's not Chris, but the person trying to organise that has given us those dimensions. And we, as I said, we looked at the National Pickleball League sizes, but nowhere in my investigations of it have I seen sizes as nominated in that letter. So it's a bit difficult to respond to if we haven't seen it.
Sorry to get into it, if you like. These are drawn from the US originally. They're accepted by the Pickleball Australia Association as a standard. I'm not objecting to pickleball. I'm objecting to too many courts being proposed in a space potentially unsafe. I'm happy to get a number for you to talk to the Pickleball Association, who are the national governing association, and they're a member of the Oceania group as well. That's what was in the pack. They are actually pitching long term to be a sport at the Brisbane Games in 32. So this is serious stuff. They don't need the reputation damaged in any way by people short-circuiting standards.
okay,
And I'll leave
Peter,
it
thank
there.
you. Thank you very much for that clarification of your correspondence. Are there any further questions from the panel? I have one or two.
Could I just add
I
something?
think the conversation's been very helpful. So a lot of my questions have been asked. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks,
if-
Kate.
Just one.
Ross, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, and it might be for Robert. It was just a question about the acoustic fencing, particularly being colour bond and potential for sound if a ball hits the fence, if in fact that's common or possible, but just what that treatment of the fence was going to be in terms of dampening any noise, from a ball on the inside.
Well, it'll be in a sandwich panel, of course, inside it to muffle any reverberation. But the intent actually is, if you have a look at the drawing, it's actually CFC, so compressed fibre cement, not Colorbond. So it won't have that metal to plastic sound.
Okay, and sorry, when you say sandwich, is that filled internally
Yeah.
between the outer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. That's
Sorry,
very
that was
helpful. I
all.
had a very similar question to, that you did, but I have a further question. Is it possible that the acoustic treatment could be returned from the north wall or north facade along the east and west? Because obviously it's spreading broader than just a linear north-south or east-west. So I would wonder if that's a possibility.
Look, I'm sure we can take that back to the club to see how they would feel about that. It would probably be, if there was an advantage, I think it would be mainly the west
Yes.
elevation. The east one has would be
The driveways
a
would
tad
be
problematic
problematic.
because we've got driveways
Sure.
and everything down through there, where we don't have those sort of issues facing west.
I think as well the eastern frontage is onto Mona Vale Road, which in of itself is a sound barrier of sorts.
Yes, correct.
So any further questions? And the provision of landscaping is conditioned and quite detailed in the requirements on the area between the existing structure and Mona Vale Road. So that's something that is acceptable.
Ross, could I ask, point out one more thing?
Yep.
Sure.
Thank you. Northern Beaches Council are putting in 2 pickleball courts for us in Seaforth Community Centre, and the dimensions for them are 1.15 centimetres from the brick walls at the sides and 1.23 centimetres between the courts.
Thank you. That's
that
useful
doesn't
information.
mean it's right. I'm sorry. It really
Sorry,
doesn't
Peter, would you
mean
mind not
right.
interrupting? Thank you. So are there any questions further from the panel?
No, none for me.
And I guess we've had a fairly lengthy discussion, and some information has been, I think, very fruitful and helpful for us in our deliberations, which we will continue after this meeting.
Sorry, can I just quickly add, just wanted to say that the sound recordings that you take on the other side of Mona Vale Road are different to the sound recordings that you will get as soon as you get away from Mona Vale Road, because the sound travels above the road and across the valley. And indeed, when you walk behind the houses that are just 1 block back, it's actually quieter than it is 20 minutes further walk away. So something to take note of. They never do the sound things for any of the stuff in that industrials area where it actually travels to.
Thank you. Well, if there are no further questions from panel members, then I'll close the meeting and indicate that we will deliberate on this in private, and then there will be a decision that is available on the website within 48 hours.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So I'll close the meeting, and it closes at 12:44. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Excuse me.